Are you stuck in this unhelpful loop of thoughts about work, even when you're not working? Like when you're driving home from work, or when you're reading bedtime story to your kid, or maybe when you're like lounging on the beach, supposedly taking your vacation. In our hyper-connected world today, it can be really hard for people to truly disconnect. A lot of us deal with this feeling of guilt of not being available when others need us, or this fear of missing out on something urgent and important. So in today's video, we want to explore some really practical ideas that could help you truly disconnect from work so that you can recharge and recover so that you can return to work and continue on in a more sustainable way.
So I am Angela Smith.
And I'm Hoon Bui.
And together we work with purpose-driven leaders and teams so that they can fine-tune the way they work, really excel at what they do, and have the impact that they really want to have without burning themselves out.
So the first one I want to share is, in order to set yourself up to be able to disconnect from work, is start with when you're working. And that is to make sure you are working on the right thing. So at the beginning of the day, make sure you sit down and reflect, what are the critical items that I need to take care of today? And then be really disciplined. Protect your time, protect your attention, so that you can actually take care of those things that you say are so important, and not get distracted by, a request that just come in, or taking on meetings that could actually be pushed out further. So do that first.
That will definitely set you up for success. The second thing is question that autopilot. What I mean by autopilot is that thing inside of us that tells us we just have to get it all done, right? So you have this to-do list, all of the things are still on it, it's the end of the day, and so you just kind of have to keep on working, right? No, the message that we want to share is question that. Ask yourself, are these things really urgent? What would happen if I didn't do them? Would the world fall apart? I know that I have caught myself going into that loop of trying to get it all done, and it's not possible. So we have to be intentional about how we're spending our time. And actually, Hung shared a great example where when she has something big on her to-do list and it still needs to get done and she hasn't tackled it yet, sometimes all she needs to do is just make a plan of how she'll tackle it over the next few days or weeks or whatever, and then she has comfort knowing it'll happen, it'll come, and she doesn't have to spend the whole evening trying to pump it out and get it all done. So just make sure you gut check that before you start diving into that to-do list and working later than you really need to.
The third one we want to talk about is this idea of unplugging, right? So this comes in a couple of different ways. One is to create the separation from work and personal life, right? So if you're working from home, this means closing the laptop, even closing the door to your office, shutting down your computer. Create a transition routine so that you understand work time is over and now you're transitioning to life, basically. And then the other thing is like turn off notifications. A lot of people turn on notification for their email or their messaging app, and it continues to ping them throughout the night. If you're working in teams that are working across different time zones, or maybe in a team environment where people are flexing their hours, or some people are working earlier and later, and if you don't turn on notification, what can end up happening is that you end up working kind of the whole time anyone else on your team is working, because messages are coming through. And really, if you see a notification comes in, it's natural psychology that you want to check it. And if you're going to check it, you're going to start thinking about it. So avoid going there at all by just turning off the notifications.
Yeah, what we hear a lot is, if I turn off notifications, I'm going to miss something really, really important. What if something urgent is coming up and nobody can reach me? We have a solution for that. It just needs to be different from what you typically use in your workday to communicate. So you can give another alternative form of communication to your team members or your colleagues or your leader that they can reach you on if urgent. So just be really clear that it's only meant to be used in really, really exceptional cases, but this might be your personal phone, and you can say, listen, I don't use my text messaging for work generally, but here is my cell number if anything urgent comes up. And then that way you can kind of rest assured in your brain that yes, if something urgent comes up, they can reach you. You don't have to keep on checking to make sure that everything is okay.
Yeah. This next one is a little bit trickier. So our mind is designed to wander. Like for me, it always somehow comes up when I'm cooking and I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing. Thoughts about work just naturally creep in, and it's nothing bad. I'm not stressed about anything. Something I've been wrestling with, it just starts to come in, and then all of a sudden I find myself down this rabbit hole trying to solve a problem. Sometimes that's okay, but other time when you're doing things that really matter, like sitting down having dinner with your family, visiting with a friend, or like hanging out with your kid, and you want to be present for that. So when thoughts of work come up, notice and redirect. Notice where your thoughts have gone and try to redirect your thought to the present. So I find a couple of things really helpful. Sometimes rubbing my hands together, like just a lot of nerve endings on our hand, and that can really bring us back. Or even like rub it like on my thighs, like there's a lot of texture. I don't know, my pants are really textured. So just pay attention to your senses, right? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? What am I smelling? What am I touching? Or what am I tasting if you're having dinner? So all of these things can help you redirect and kind of bring yourself back to the present.
The other tip is that when you are trying to do something like be present, doing something else, make sure that it's engaging or rewarding, requires a little bit of like your focus, like you can immerse yourself in it. So I'm going to share an example, maybe you can relate to it. Have you ever tried to settle down for the evening, you know, like maybe your kids are in bed and the workday is done, you've closed your laptop, you've closed the door, you sit down to try and watch a show or a movie, and your mind starts wandering. You start thinking about all of your work, or you start tackling that problem that you were thinking about while you were cooking, whatever that might be. You find yourself kind of going down that path, similar to what Hung just mentioned. Think about the activity that you're engaging in and see if there are ways that you can make it more engaging and more immersive. So TV isn't always the best way to do that. Some of the things that we've found really helpful is actually doing a puzzle or listening to a podcast that it's something interesting, and so you're actively learning, or you're listening to an interesting story about someone. These kinds of activities are some of the best ones to engage in because you still feel like you're achieving something, or you still feel like you're doing something that's of value, and so it's keeping your focus and your attention, and that can make it a bit easier to not let work kind of creep into those thoughts and pull you back in.
Yeah, and I find this one really interesting because I think a lot of us have a really hard time with feeling like we're wasting our time or not using our time as well as we could. Like I hear this from clients all the time. I was sitting there watching a show and they're like, oh, I could be doing my online grocery instead.
Yeah.
Or I do some online shopping and get the Christmas present sorted for the whole family. They're always constantly feeling like they have to check things off the box.
And multitask. Do them all at the same time.
Yeah. So, you know, think about these activities. Like, what is it that's going to give you that immersive experience? That's going to hold your attention. That can give you that sense of reward, so that you don't slip back to this mode of like, I can't rest. I need to do something.
And ideally away from a screen. If you work on a screen all day, try to find an activity that does not involve a screen. That's always great too.
Yeah. So anyway, we hope that gives you some ideas that you can implement right away to disconnect from work so that you can truly recharge. If you find this video helpful, we'd love a quick thumbs up. For more content like this, hit the subscribe button. And if you think somebody you know might benefit from this content, feel free to share that with them. So that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks everyone.